Speed. All right, here we go. How do you all feel about New Year's resolutions, or maybe more broadly, just big goals that you set at the beginning of every year? Now, this might surprise you, but I will tell you personally, I'm not a fan. And the reason, 64% of all people fail their New Year's resolutions within 1 month of starting it. Resolutions fail because you take on too much, right? You want to change everything. You want to change your work life, your personal life, your fitness life. You want to change too many things at the same time. And yet, I do believe in goals. They help us move forward. They help us achieve. But I've found and developed a tool that splits the difference between these two things. It's the best part of goal setting. It eschews some of the typical trappings of resolutions, and it's a simple tool. You can use it right now, whether this is the beginning of the year or the beginning of something new, a new chapter for you. You can take it anywhere with you, and it's simple as pie. Here it goes. One of the things that I love about making a simple more or less list rather than particular goals is that at the end of the day, what really matters is what you do. In order to become the noun, you must do the verb. Now, I'm just going to take an example of 4 things that are on my actual list from this year to serve as an example. The first one is more writing. This year, I've got another book that I'm working on, and I also want to start journaling again. This is a habit that I lost over the last couple years that I love when I can sit down in the morning, and whether it's morning pages or just making some notes in the morning, writing 500 words as a part of the book, I want to do more writing. All right, here's number 2. Better posture. I noticed that throughout the pandemic, I ended up working on my laptop, on the couch, at the kitchen counter, all kinds of different places around the house, and my posture got terrible. A third thing, hosting friends. This is a thing that I just got bad at across the pandemic, and it's something that's so dear to me. I love convening people. I love bringing people together. And I just got bad, for all kinds of obvious reasons, at inviting people over to the house, making them feel at home, building community at our house. And then lastly, by way of example, I want to be more proactive around personal finance. This is not to say that my personal finances were bad. In fact, I used Ramit Sethi's book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, to set up an automated personal finance system that's worked great for years. But let's face it, a lot of things have changed. Inflation is shifting. We've got a whole new world with cryptocurrency and NFTs. So again, I want to get back into something that I have historically had automated because it's an area of interest and opportunity for me. All right, now that I've got my more list, let's work on my less list. Number 1, less scrolling without intention. What do I mean by that? Quite simply, these devices are incredible, right? I can run an entire business off of this phone. It's incredibly useful. However, it's also dangerously close, as in right next to all of the social media apps that we love and also love to hate. So one of the things that I realized over the course of the last year, that I spent too much time accidentally getting sucked into, say, a social media and scrolling, only to recognize that I was scrolling with no intent to create or do some action that was going to move my business, my life, my interests, or at any moment, it wasn't going to move anything forward. Thing 2 that I want to do less of in this next year is hurrying. I live a busy life. I have designed my life to be busy, to get the most out of every moment. But one of the things I've realized, especially of late, is I do not like the feeling that I get when I'm rushing from one thing to another, where I can't dedicate my entire attention. I mean, the reality is our attention is one of the only things that we have in this world, right? Where we focus. And if I'm in between too many things or from one thing to another and I'm rushing, I'm late, I realize that I'm not at my best. So this coming period, I'm gonna do less hurrying. Also, one of the things I'm gonna do less of is attaching to an outcome. The reality is that if we attach to an outcome, we somehow look back at the process if it wasn't the outcome that we anticipated and thought it might be all for naught. So what I'm trying to do more of is, instead of attaching to an outcome, I want to love the process. If I can divorce myself, the process, the work that I do, from the outcome, I think I'm gonna be a lot happier. And by way of example, the last thing I'm gonna put on my list here is aimlessly working at the end of the day. I found that I was chewing up between 1 and 2 hours at the end of every workday when I was completely spent, my mind was fried, just trying to get a couple things done. What I found out when I reviewed the work that I'd done is it was almost always crappy. So I had crappy output and I didn't feel good because I worked 2 hours later. This is another thing that I'm gonna change in this particular year. One simple but I think critical observation that you might want to make on your list right now, and we can use mine as an example. Notice this first one here, more writing. That is a professional goal, for example. Better posture, that is a physical goal. Those are already very, very different, right? Hosting friends, that is a personal goal or a family goal. And this one here is a financial goal. It's very specific. I want to get more involved in my personal finances because I've had them on set it and forget it. One thing to notice about my less list, scrolling with that intention left me feeling sort of empty and like I wasted time. Hurrying, that is thinking about the future rather than living in this moment right now. Attaching to an outcome, also future projecting. It seems like most of these things are emotional. I just find that interesting. And again, I'm not using this as a roadmap for what yours should look like, but I do love just taking a moment and stepping back and seeing that these are from all kinds of different categories, and these might cross across categories and just be general feelings that you want to cultivate less of. I don't want to be prescriptive, but I do find that if you are aware of the different attributes that the list has, that will help you understand how you're thinking about your life at any one moment. I want to underscore one last thing. We are what we do, despite our culture's emphasis on all of the thoughts. Thoughts are just temporary. They move along. What you actually do in this world, that is very clearly who you are. You get very little credit for what's between your ears if it's not brought to life through your actions. This is an action, a behavior-oriented system, and that's one of the reasons I love it. It doesn't matter if this is on a whiteboard that you took a photograph of. It's some notes on your phone. It's scribbles in your notebook. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you set up a system to reference this list often. So that's the tool, and more importantly, that's how you use that tool. Now, it goes to you. I understand that sharing your more or less list, it might be a little bit, risky or vulnerable, especially if you have some things that you're truly working on an inner, deeper level. That's fine. But I do recommend, for accountability, that you put one more and one less thing out there into the world. Inspire somebody else to see that you're going to try and be kinder to strangers and less interrupting of other people while they're speaking, or whatever two things that you want to be in this world. I find it interesting and powerful that when we tell the world what we're out there to do, we're accountable, and we also send ideas out there in the world, and those ideas, they can take hold, they can take flight in this world. I think that's part of why I got interested in this, because I saw other people transforming through the podcast, through Creative Live. I was then deeply inspired to transform my own life into doing more of what I want, and of course, less of what I don't.